back in with another video. And tonight we're going to talk about the triple homicide in Frostproof Florida, which is Polk County, middle of Florida, mid to central Florida, about midway up in the center of the state of Florida, very rural area. This murder, homicide, triple murder happened Friday evening. The 17th of July, just last Friday. Today, I'm happy to announce the tough and hard work by the Polk County Sheriff's Homicide Squad. There is 3 perpetrators in custody, which is unbelievable that they were able to track down and figure out this gruesome homicide and bring justice for these 3 victims, young men in their 20s. I think the oldest actually had just turned 30, bringing justice for their families. And now it's going to be up to the prosecutors to seal the deal. Guys, my name is DutyRon, retired New York City police detective with 20 plus years in law enforcement. Please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you will get all things DutyRon when I do go live or upload a video. And thank you to my channel members, my Patreon supporters, and each and every one of you who subscribe and positively interact on this channel. I greatly appreciate it. Yeah, we had quite a storm here earlier tonight, but we are here to announce that Sheriff Grady Judd, he's over a 3-decade law enforcement professional, has made the announcement that today a local thug who had over 280 charges against him in his 26 years in existence has been brought to justice. The shooter, the 2 accomplices, his brother and his girlfriend, are also being charged as accessories to murder. Florida has the capital punishment, so this guy, if convicted, should fry down in Florida. They should give him the capital punishment. Hello, G-Spot, Crispy, Soul 4 Music. Great to see you. Thank you, Meglo, Diane, Dookie, Joey, Brooklyn. Hey, thank you, everyone, for joining. Cheryl, Soul for Music is in the hospital, and she's here in the chat, and she's recovering. So everybody, please put up some prayer emojis for Soul for Music. She had a heavy-duty operation just a few short days ago, and she's at her hospital bed here watching and listening to the broadcast. So thank you, Soul for Music, for being in here, and we're sending you a lot of strength and positive vibes. Hello, Athena. Good to see you. Thank you, Susan Walls, Jeep Girl, all the channel members, Jamie, Texas Chick. Thank you for joining. So, guys, I'm going to segue over. It's going to take me a second to get this browser scene up. So just give me 2 seconds. It's going to be dark. Hold on, guys. Thank you, Emily, for the super chat. I appreciate the super love. Thank you, thank you. Thank you for that. Okay. It's not cooperating. Here I am, but I can't get the, oh, there it is. All right, great. Thank you. Thank you for cooperating with me. Thank you, technology.
I'm here on this Saturday morning to tell you some very bad news. This is Lake Streety Road, and it's about as far out in the middle of the woods as you can get. It's a peaceful area. There is a beautiful lake that 3 very close friends were
This is from Friday
on last night. And all 3 of them are dead. They're murdered. Worse than that, they're massacred. And we need the community's help identifying who killed these 3 young white men. It's a Friday night. What could be more wholesome than meeting up with 2 of your best buddies to go catfishing? And it's called night fishing in this part of the world. These 3 men all lived in Frostproof. Let me tell you who they are. Brandon Rollins, Kevin Springfield, and Damon Tillman. Now, they're victims, and according to Marcy's law, you're not supposed to release their names. However, we got permission of the family to release their names because we want the community to know who they are and to know that they were viciously murdered and to know that we need their help. Here's what occurred. They were to show up here in 2 separate vehicles. So Damon Tillman in his red pickup truck apparently arrived here first.
Jeep Girl, thank you so much for the super love. I appreciate you back. Thank you.
What I give you is certainly conjecture and all subject to change. This is just what we see from the crime scene, and most of that we're going to protect. But it appears that Damon showed up first, and he was murdered. And it appears that while the suspects, and we certainly believe there's more than one, were in the process of murdering Damon, that Brandon and Kevin showed up in a white pickup truck.
Let me just stop for a second there. This was from Friday night, I believe, or Saturday morning, the news conference. He said that he believes that there was more than one. He had no clue that there was 3 accomplices. There was the shooter, and there was 2 others, the girlfriend and the defendant's brother. So that was a pretty good call on his half right there. So kudos to Sheriff Grady Judd, who is definitely a well-respected law enforcement professional. I believe he's got almost 40 years experience, or maybe 40 plus years of experience in law enforcement. So kudos to him and his homicide squad.
And they were shot up and ultimately murdered. But here's what the murderers didn't count on. That one of our victims, Brandon Rollins, was able to call his father and say, help. His father, who was home in bed asleep, heard the call from his son, knew where they were fishing, jumped up, got dressed, drove here immediately. He's about 10 minutes away in the Frostproof community. When he arrived, he saw this horrific scene of where all these young men had been shot up. In Brandon's father's excitement to run to and help his son, he forgot his cell phone at home. So now he's out in the middle, as you can see, of no place without any communications. So he hopped back in his vehicle and went to Sunray, which is on Highway 27, ran into the convenience store. They all know each other in this area. Said, my son needs help. 17-year-old young lady who's the daughter of the convenience store attendant at that time jumps in the vehicle with Brandon's father, and they come back to the scene. What the murderers also didn't count on is Brandon had the opportunity to talk to his dad before he died. So EMS, fire, and sheriff's office are notified, and ultimately, by the time EMS and fire arrived, that Brandon had succumbed to his injuries as well. We're holding most of the information very close to the chest, but it's important for you to know and for the community to be as outraged as we are. These folks appear to be beaten and shot. Did you hear me? Beaten and shot. We are seeking leads. We need help so that we can solve this crime sooner rather than later, because there are one or more, and we suspect more than one, murderer that killed 3 people in a little country community, a very safe, very quiet, quaint, very quiet community, murdered them while they were on their way to go catfishing last night at about 10 o'clock in the evening. So please, call us. We usually wait a few days before we put out the first reward offer. But we're offering today $5,000. $5,000. You
That was subsequently upgraded to 30,000.
don't have to get involved in, don't have to testify in court. All you have to do is call Crime Stoppers, 1-800-226-TIPS, and say, I have some information. And if your information leads to the arrest, simply the arrest, you get $5,000 cash money. But the victims, their parents, and their families deserve for us to solve this sooner rather than later. This is a horrific scene. I've been to a lot of murder scenes in my life, and this ranks among the worst I've been to. You can ask questions. I'm probably not going to tell you any more than I have, but give it your best shot if you're curious.
Do you have the ages of the three victims?
Now you can hear it in the voice of a very, very well groomed, long-time professional. He was truly rattled. Guys, please don't time out Linda Cormier. She is a good friend of mine. Whoever did that, please undo it. Beth, Linda's a great, great friend and supporter. I don't know, whatever she said, I'm sure it wasn't anything bad. She could just put her back. Hello, Linda. Great to see you. Thank you for joining. Appreciate you being in here. Thank you for all you do up in Canada. Much love and respect to you. So you could hear it in his voice. He is rattled. Linda, I'm sure that was just a mistake. So you could hear it in his voice. This is the press conference from Saturday, and we will get to the conference from today. We'll get it from the conference from today.
I do. Brandon Rollins is 27. Damian Tillman is 23. And Kevin Springfield is 30. I'm told that they have been best buddies for years, that they do a lot of social interaction together, and they're all really good friends and have been.
When Brandon's father got out here, was he still alive at that time?
He was still alive. Brandon had the opportunity to speak with his father just before he passed away.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, did he give his father any information about who may have been responsible for this?
The information that Brandon told his father, we're not releasing at this time.
Do you believe that the people responsible are known to the victims?
Have no idea at this point in the investigation. That's total speculation as to whether or not they knew them or not. But our intuitiveness tells us you don't just stumble upon somebody out here. This is a dirt road, a clay dirt road, way out in the middle of what we call God's country, on the way to a nice little fishing lake. It's not like there's a lot of people around here. As you can see, it's cow pastures and lakes. All right? We appreciate you helping us get this information out. We're going to find who did this.
All right, so that's the situation there. Sheriff Grady Judd just taken charge of his investigation. You could see that he is rattled a little bit, but at the same time, he is focused. He is looking at all angles, and he has a team of investigators that they put together. You can see these forensics investigation lab trucks in the background, the crime scene, all of the people who gather the evidence, the detectives, some of the best detectives you put on these high-profile cases where you have three young men, 23, I think he said 25, or 23, 27, and 30. You have three young men who are not criminals, who have no criminal record, murdered out in the middle of God's country, as he calls it, Central Florida. I know, Athena, this is right in Central Florida. I'm going to pull up a map and show you exactly where this is. If you guys bear with me here a second, I'm going to pull up the map. This is going to be Google map of Lake Streety Road in Frostproof. So I'm gonna pull it up so you guys can see how rural this really is. This is Lake Streety right here in the middle of the screen. So this is the size of the lake, and this is the road where the murder took place. So somewhere along this route right here is where the crime scene was, and it looks like Lake Streety goes road all the way over, comes all the way down here. But I'll zoom in on it so you could see how really it is just a dirt road, as we saw from the crime scene photos. This is Lake Streety Road, and it runs right all along the lake. And there's little access points where you can go fishing, or you could take a boat and put it out there. So that's a look at this is an overhead of the lake where this crime scene took place. Here's Frostproof. This is a map of Frostproof, and this is the outlined area here. You see it's all outlined in like red. This is the Frostproof within Polk County, and there's a bunch of lakes all around, but this is Lake Streety right here. So when I pull out, this is Frostproof, and then they drove down into here into Lake Streety. That's a smaller lake than some of the other ones that are over here, but this is the location. Let me play for you real quick a family interview here.
I'm sure they're out
This
there
is one of the victims' moms.
They need to come forward.
Tonight, a Polk County family is speaking to 8 on Your Side after the murders of their son and his 2 best friends during a night fishing trip. Sheriff Grady Judd says that the crime scene in Frostproof is one of the worst he's ever seen. 8 on Your Side's Justin Schecker in Bartow for us tonight.
Rod, good evening. Brandon Rollins' dad, mom, and girlfriend told me they're hoping the public can help deputies put whoever is responsible for this triple murder behind bars at the Polk County Jail.
I know it can't bring my son back, but I just want to see something done. This was horrible.
A devastated Dottie Payton tells 8 on Your Side her 27-year-old son loves hog hunting and fishing.
They go fishing at Streety Lake almost every other night.
But Friday night, Brandon Rollins, Kevin Springfield, and Damian Tillman never made it home from that lake in Frostproof.
These folks appear to be beaten and shot. Did you hear me? Beaten and shot.
Sheriff Grady Judd says his investigators believe multiple suspects murdered the 3 friends.
What the murderers also didn't count on is Brandon had the opportunity to talk to his dad before he died.
After receiving that final fateful call from his son, this father says he rushed to Lake Streety Road.
When I got there,
This
I
poor
was
man.
looking for my son. It was a mess. I found my son. I was holding him. He was telling me what happened. I was too shocked.
This morning, Jessica Steenson says Sheriff Judd shook her hand and promised he would not stop until justice is served for her boyfriend and his 2 best friends.
I moved here from Jacksonville, Florida for him 2 years ago. And this is not how it was supposed to be, and I want justice for him.
And Justin, there is a reward tonight for information leading to an arrest, correct?
A $5,000 reward, Rod, according to Sheriff Judd. Again,
All right, folks. Yeah, this is. I just want you to see some of the real pain and horror that the crime victims' families go through. This is his girlfriend. They moved there and two years ago. You have 3 victims here who were senselessly murdered because of an argument over an alleged engine that was taken from this perpetrator's truck. But you're going to hear right now from Sheriff Grady Judd that he's going to tell you in no uncertain terms the amount of evil that exists within this man's body. This is an evil monster. This is what our police officers, our police forces throughout the United States, throughout the world, are out there hunting. And without the men and women in law enforcement, you and I both will be stuck to having to fight off very evil people just like this. Now, mark my words, there is many more people just like this perpetrator that's sitting out there. And I'm not giving him any street credit by naming his name. You'll hear his name here by the sheriff. And guess what? There's many more people that are walking around that are menace to society, that go around, and the people of Frostproof, they came forward. There was hundreds of phone calls to the tip line, but the people of Frostproof came forward to the sheriff and said, you need to look at this guy, TJ. You need to look at this guy because we think that he is involved. And sure enough, public's information led the sheriff to that household. Well, he was living in a trailer home off the grid in the middle of nowhere, and I'll show you a video. I'll show you a actually satellite view of where this guy was living. He was living in squalor. But I got to tell you, we need our men and women of law enforcement, and if we don't have them, we're going to be left to fight off and defend ourselves against evil just like this. This is a monster. This is a demon. This guy is beyond evil, and I hope and I pray that he is convicted and gets the death penalty down in Florida, and I hope they fry him. And you're going to hear Sheriff Judd, Grady Judd, say in no uncertain terms, that's what this piece of shit, what this sucker deserves. This guy is a lowlife, a real piece of scum. And I tell you, if they asked me to pull the trigger or make the lethal injection, I would do it and wouldn't lose an ounce of sleep over it. Hello, Farm Oil Fanatic. Hello, Glarer. Great to see you. Big Frank, thanks for coming in. I appreciate you. All right, let's get to it.
All new at noon now, 3 people are in custody for a triple murder in Polk County. 26-year-old Tony TJ Wiggins is facing several charges, including first-degree murder. His girlfriend, 27-year-old Mary Whitmore, and his brother, 21-year-old William Robert Wiggins, are also facing charges for accessory after the fact. Now, this comes after the bodies of 3 men were found in Frostproof on Friday, where the sheriff's office says they were on a fishing trip. Sheriff Grady Judd says surveillance video shows TJ Wiggins talking to one of the victims at a Dollar General. He says all 3 suspects followed that victim, Damian Tillman, out of the store.
Damian is checking out of the store with his product. He is followed out of the store by TJ, who checks out about 15 seconds later. And he's also followed by his brother and his girlfriend.
Now, this is just a small part of the puzzle. I'm going to play the whole news conference. It's kind of long, but it's worth it to listen to it because he tells us in no uncertain terms exactly the steps that were taken by law enforcement, how wonderfully they investigated this crime, and how they were in the middle of nowhere with no surveillance. This is all going to be evidence-based, a trial that would be evidence-based. If this gets fought, there's no witnesses to this. There's no eyewitnesses to this. The only eyewitnesses to this are dead, right? And you have his girlfriend who was there, who was an eyewitness, who was not going to probably spill the beans, but we don't know. She could get broken down, and then she could cooperate for the prosecution. And his brother, I don't think his brother's going to turn on him as well. But those are the only 2 that witnessed it because they were there. So if they're maybe granted some kind of leniency, they may turn on the brother because he's going to be getting the death penalty. And even if he doesn't get the death penalty, he's going to have life in prison with no chance of parole. He's charged with 3 murder first degrees. So I think that Florida will fry him. So let me just say hello to a couple of people joining. Thank you so much for my channel members, my Patreon supporters, and all the people who leave super chat, positive comments. I greatly appreciate you. If you're not following me on all social media, all one word right here, DutyRon, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and don't forget to join my Facebook, YouTube video share group. You'll get a lot out of that, especially if you're a content creator, because if you're a content creator, we share a lot of the videos in that group. So I encourage you to definitely look into coming on over to the YouTube video share group. All right, here we go with the press conference. Like I said, it's a little bit long, but it's well worth it, guys.
We can give you an update. I'm going to first and foremost tell you that we have simply the best homicide team, I believe, in the entire nation.
Hold on, guys.
In 11 years, we only have 2 unsolved homicides. And quite frankly,
Wondering why I can't get this full screen.
Friends of those victims would talk to us, we would have 0 unsolved homicides. But apparently their friends had rather these folks be dead than help us find out who the murderers are. But that's a side story. I knew when we sent this investigative team there that they would do everything they could and would more than likely solve this homicide because they are simply the very best. And they did on this case what they do on every other case. They investigated this homicide as if our victims, Damian Tillman, Kevin Springfield, and Brandon Rollins, were their brothers. That's the energy and enthusiasm. They work 24/7 around the clock along with all of their colleagues, and they have solved the case. We have locked up the 3 people that are responsible for the murders of these guys. Let me once again lay out the details for you if you missed it originally. I want you to think about this. This is Polk County. Frostproof, the very south end of the county. It's an extremely rural area. The county's 2,000 square miles. Population's almost 700,000, and all of it is from mid-Polk County north. So it's sparsely populated area that's made up of cow pastures, orange groves, beautiful lakes, and a very, very low crime rate in the Frostproof area, which is one of the best kept secrets. And
this was from today, this news conference.
Any place in the nation. But all of that came to a crashing halt on Lake Streety Road. When we found these people, our victims, massacred, literally massacred, we thought, my goodness, what could have happened there? Well, we know now. I'm going to introduce you to the people that were responsible for that. Then I'm going to give you a timeline. So this is going to take a couple of minutes, and you pick from it what you need. Here are the murders. This is the trigger man. This is the guy who directly did the damage. His name's Tony Wiggins. He's known as TJ. He's 26 years of age.
That's the face of evil.
This is Mary Whitmore. She's 27 years of age, and she is the girlfriend of Tony Wiggins. And this is Robert Wiggins. He's 21 years of age, and he's the brother, obviously, to TJ. But let me stop for a minute and give you a little history on TJ. TJ is someone who his criminal history should shock your conscience. It does mine. TJ started to be arrested when he was 12 years old. He is currently on.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you heard that right. He started his criminal history at 12 years old. He's 26 years old with 230 felony charges.
Only 26 years old. TJ has 230 felony criminal charges in his arrest history. I didn't stutter. He had 230 charges in his arrest history, 15 convictions, and 2 times to state prison at only 26. There's a picture of Tony Wiggins. Here's the real Tony Wiggins. He's a thug. He's a criminal. He's pure evil in the flesh. He's wild and he's out of control. Mary has 0 criminal history. 0. Robert has 1 misdemeanor arrest. Virtually no arrest. Tony, 230 felony charges. They all are from the Lake Wells and Frostproof area, as was our victim. When we started receiving Crime Stopper tips, and we received them to the point that the call center said we had to bring in extra help. We had people call in from all over the nation about ideas and helping us investigate the crime and what they believed and psychics. But the local tips that came in that were filtered, and there were hundreds that came to us, the predominant information we got was, look at TJ Wiggins from Frostproof. It's not that they had any idea that he did it, but this guy is just mean.
See, like I said, everybody from the community knew of this tyrant. This guy was an evil monster who was going through the neighborhood. He assaulted in one of his 230 felonies a 65-year-old man and almost killed him. He was out on felony parole. He was not supposed to have any firearms and had a whole cache of weapons, including a .357, I believe, that he used in this murder, or maybe a 9mm. But he had a Smith & Wesson handgun. I don't believe it was a .357. It might have been a 9mm. But this is what this guy was doing. Everybody in the community knew. He terrorized the community.
He's just violent. He's currently out on bond for breaking a guy's arm with a crowbar during a fight, waiting to go back to trial on other felony charges. This is a guy who they said will just walk up and punch you for no reason, or no reason to you, certainly a good reason to him. You look at the Florida statutes as it appears with criminal conduct, he's got some arrest history. Everything from burglary and theft to aggravated battery to resisting law enforcement officers to battery on law enforcement officers to battery on people that are 65 years or older, the elderly. He's just wild and hostile. And the people of Frostproof said, look at him. But let me tell you, as I introduce you to these folks and I start through the timeline, what occurred. When our crime scene folks and our detectives were working the original crime scene, what we noticed in the truck, in Damien's truck, and understand when I talk today, Damien was in the red pickup truck, and the white pickup truck had our other 2 victims in there, Kevin Springfield and Brandon Rollins. Kevin was driving the white pickup truck, Brandon was riding in the white pickup truck, and Damien was driving his red pickup truck. The 3 of them decided to go to the lake to fish. What's more wholesome than 3 friends, 3 close friends, fishing together in Frostproof on a Friday night? And that's what they were doing. But first, Damien stopped at the Dollar General store. And we figured that out because we saw a Dollar General bag in the victim, Damien's, truck, and there were things that he'd purchased there. So we went to Dollar General, and I want to tell you, when you look at a professional business that was totally cooperative with us, it's Dollar General. Dollar General always works well with us because, you know, they want good customers and they don't care for criminals stealing their stuff or certainly committing murders. What we saw when we pulled the videotape was Damien standing in line to check out. The person behind him in line to check out is, newsflash, TJ. The person behind TJ is Robert. And we also determined that Mary was in the store. So let's go to a timeline. At 21:56 hours, we call that 9:56 in the evening.
I was just going to say 9:56.
Damien is checking out of the store with his product. He is followed out of the store by TJ, who checks out about 15 seconds later. And he's also followed by his brother and his girlfriend. At 10:06 p.m., only 10 minutes later, Brandon, who is now in the white pickup truck, frantically calls his dad and says, "Help." And I've already talked to you how Dad ran to the scene only to find the massacre at the scene. What we know is that Damien drove directly to the lake from Dollar General to meet his friends, Kevin and Brandon. What we know is that as a result of that, the murder occurred in short order, in less than 10 minutes. So we have all three of the suspects in the store with Damien and checking out 10 minutes before the frantic call for help.
Thank you for that super
So
chat,
our
Ralph.
detectives...
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Yeah, guys, this is important because he goes over the whole timeline of what they have. And this is going to be subject to change, and some of the details of this may change. But right now, what they have is a really good, solid case with a lot of evidence. They have a lot of evidence to present to a grand jury, and also there'll be a lot more things that'll be recovered at the crime scene that they will tie in to this defendant and the other two, like hair and fibers, serology, saliva, DNA. There'll be a lot of things that'll be, you know, the CSI kind of aspect to this case, because again, there's no eyewitnesses other than the girlfriend and his brother. We have 3 deceased young men, and there's no cameras. So the bottom line here is the surveillance and footage put them at places, but there's no surveillance and footage of actually the crime happening. So it's going to be all, you know, circumstantial and all evidence that is going to be brought forward by the crime scene team, by the homicide detectives, by the lab, by the phone records, by the cell tower pings. You're going to hear about all of this type of stuff. So it's going to be all CSI type stuff, which is what all good investigators do in a case like this. So that's what we're going to be hearing a ton about.
Now confirm that, hey, this guy Tony or TJ.
I'm going to say the arrest affidavit is going to be straightforward. It's going to be 3 charges of murder, first degree. The The other two are going to be, they're definitely going to be charged with lesser charges, accessory to murder, and a bunch of other things. And those are going to be things that the prosecutor can dangle over their head and say, hey, listen, if you don't want to spend the rest of your life in prison, you damn well better come forward and tell us what your brother did, what your boyfriend did. Otherwise, you too are going to be spending the rest of your life behind bars. We're going to see to it that you stay in jail as long as we possibly could put you in there. So that's what they're going to go with against the other two, the girlfriend and his brother. They're gonna go at them hard with the possibility of them being in jail for the rest of their lives. And you have a chance to save yourself by telling us and by cooperating and testifying. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see them testify, but you never know. You never know. Some people are pretty thick-headed, but we'll see.
That we've received tips from is standing in line with and had a conversation with Damien in the store. We don't have the conversation because there's no audio, but from body language, it was not violent or animated. It was just a normal conversation. But our detectives on Monday found our suspects. And they were living on Sarver Avenue in a family compound of camper trailers. And this is in the woods outside of Frostproof.
Off the grid.
And they were living off the grid. No running water, no electricity. They had some generators. So understand that now we're talking about Frostproof in a rural part of the county. The shooting happened in a rural part of the county. And we literally have to walk the road, and we go down a dirt path through the woods that opens up into a compound off the grid. That's how far out in the woods this is. So our detectives immediately interview Tony Wiggins and Robert and Mary Whitmore. Robert and Mary consistently lie to protect TJ. Robert lies to us, Mary lies to us, TJ lies to us. They don't tell us the truth. The only common thread during their interviews, otherwise the stories are all over the place, from different vehicles to where they went to they didn't go any.
This is where it takes an amazing turn, because after this perp, Tony Wiggins, in his own age, these three all go together and get 10 double cheeseburgers at McDonald's and some chicken sandwiches. And they have a family meal together after they slaughtered and brutally beat the three of those young men.
Place, but they agreed on one thing. They went to McDonald's and ordered 10 double cheeseburgers and 2 McChicken sandwiches. That's the only thing. So on Monday, we executed a search warrant.
You fucking believe that? Pieces of shit.
TJ was found to be in possession of 2 shotguns and 2 SKS 7.62 rifles. He's a convicted felon. He can't possess firearms, so he was immediately arrested. Our forensic investigations team found 1 9mm shell casing, 1 at TJ's trailer.
This is important.
The Florida Department of Law Enforcement said from the very beginning, I had 2 conversations with the commissioner this weekend. He's a dear friend of mine. He said, Grady, FDLE's here to do anything you need. And I told you about them chipping in $10,000 to help. And he says, our lab's at your disposal. I called him Monday afternoon. I said, we need to compare some shell casings from the scene to a shell casing at our prime suspect's house. We plan to bring it over in the morning. He said, no, bring it over tonight and let's get started. They brought in people. That's the help. That's the teamwork. What did we determine? The shell casing at the scene, the shell casing at TJ's house were all fired from a Smith & Wesson handgun. And both the shell casing at home and at the scene were fired from the same weapon, the weapon that committed the massacre.
That's key right there. That is that is so important in this investigation and in this prosecution, is matching up. And I spoke about this on the previous live stream I did, where we talked about the federal judge, her son, Judge Salas in New Jersey. Her son was killed and her husband was shot by that crazy guy. I spoke about that on that video. That was my previous video, that all firearms, handguns, have specific markings, and they shoot through the barrel, and when it goes through the barrel, it makes specific markings on the ballistics. And that's part of the ballistic forensic team, and that's where this CSI type work comes into play. And that shell casing, ballistics found at the scene, they all can be matched up to that firearm that this piece of garbage, this human piece of trash, was in possession of when he was arrested. And they executed several search warrants and collected further evidence from his residence. So you'll hear the sheriff talk a little bit more about this.
In the hands of TJ were all fired from a Smith & Wesson handgun. And both the shell casing at home and at the scene were fired from the same weapon, the weapon that committed the massacre, in the hands of TJ. So on Tuesday, when we got the paperwork wrapped up with all of
Jeep Girl, she did, and they have that on film.
We went back to the scene and we asked Robert and Mary if they would join us at the sheriff's office for a clarifying interview, and they agreed to come up to the sheriff's office to talk to us. Tony had lawyered up. Mary made some admissions. She said, I bought the ammunition. TJ was with me. Newsflash, we got video of that too. That ammunition was purchased on the 9th of July. She also gave us, once again, multiple stories about being with and confirming she was in the Dollar General that night. We've got evidence to show they were together less than 10 minutes before the murder. And then when we pressed her for the details,
Welcome,
she
Mercedes.
realized, oh my gosh, they've got me. She lawyered up. She didn't cooperate anymore. Robert, the younger brother, we talked to him. Robert, up to this moment, or up to this event, is not a bad guy, at least in the criminal sense. One misdemeanor arrest. When Robert's in line, he hears Damien tell the clerk, we're going fishing. Damien tells the clerk, because the clerk knows everybody, it's a small town. Yeah, I'm going fishing with Kevin. So Robert and TJ are talking, and he says, yeah, Damien's going fishing with Kevin. And TJ says, "What? Kevin's going to be there?" So when they leave the store, TJ tells Robert, who's driving, go to the lake. Now, they had no plans to go to the lake until TJ told Robert, go to the lake. And they did. Damien now is at the lake, and he has met up with, during this time frame, Kevin and Brandon, who are in the white truck. And they have turned their trucks so that they're door to door talking to each other in the middle of the road. Robert drives and pulls up behind the white truck that's driven by Kevin with Brandon in the passenger side. TJ exited his truck. When he did, Brandon got out of his vehicle and shined a light back to see who was pulling up behind them. TJ rushed up to Brandon, pushed him against the truck, pulled a handgun out, and said, "Where's Kevin?" Well, Kevin's sitting in the driver's seat right there. And he looks and sees Kevin. He runs around, he being TJ, runs around between the red truck and the white truck. He points the gun at Kevin, and TJ says, "Where's my truck?" Kevin goes, "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yeah, you do. Where's my truck? You sold the engine out of my truck." Kevin said, "I don't know what you're talking about." At that moment in time, according to the information we've received, TJ hits Kevin. Damien starts to open the door of his vehicle and is screaming at TJ, "Put the gun away, put the gun away, put the gun away." TJ's out of control, screaming, "Where's my truck?" And he starts shooting Kevin and Brandon inside of the white truck. It's estimated, and this is still under investigation, he shoots him 9 to 10 times between the two of them. Then he turns on Damien and begins to shoot Damien, who's got his door open but is in his truck, several times. Then he goes back to Kevin's truck, and during his excitement, now he has dropped the magazine to his firearm and he can't find it. So he opens the truck door and Kevin falls out on the ground. And that's where Kevin's found. He finds the magazine to the handgun that he drops when he goes back, points the gun back. And then he calls Robert. Robert says he's sitting in the truck. He said, "I never got out of the truck. And when he pulled the gun, I started to get out of the truck. By that time, it was all over with." You can believe what of that you want to. Mary, TJ's girlfriend, she doesn't know anything. And this is one mean woman. She's not cooperating. She's not talking. She becomes incensed at the detectives when they try to confirm the spelling of her last name, because it's not spelled in the traditional way you would think you would spell Whitmore. She's saying nothing, but she's there the entire time. And she's lying to protect him.
You're very welcome, Emily.
TJ then tells Robert, "Come here." "Help me put Damien in the truck."
Hi, Linda.
So Damien now, and we don't know the lineage, the details, because they're not given to us any better than what I'm about to tell you. They grabbed Damien We don't know if he's already pulled out of the truck or if he's in the truck, because there is blood evidence all over the place. But they pick him up and heave him over into the back of the pickup truck with his foot sticking up over the edge of the bed. And then they leave.
Okay, Khalib, anybody that's wondering, I was waiting for someone to ask that question. This is obviously a statement that was given to them prior to the girlfriend, lawyering up. She was, as he said before, she was just rambling on. So she must have given, or another person must have given this statement, whether it was the brother or the girlfriend. It had to have come from either one of them, either one of them, and I doubt the shooter gave them these statements. So these sound like very specific details, and he's telling the story, with very detailed. This couldn't just, he's not just making this up. You know what I'm saying? So good to see you, Alex Daly. Hello, Linda Cormier. Thank you so much for being in here. So let's listen to the rest of this. This is almost over.
They go to a undisclosed location.
Yeah, but Brandon couldn't have given this whole story. He was shot 9 times.
Supposedly,
he was mortally wounded.
Stripped down the gun, take it apart.
He wasn't able to give this kind of detailed story.
They immediately go to McDonald's in Lake Wells and order 10 double cheeseburgers and 2 McChickens.
Hi, Yelfa.
While they're standing in line, they go through the drive-thru. It's very quiet. TJ simply says, "We weren't there." And that's all the conversation that they will admit to. We believe there's more than that. We found throughout the investigation that they lied for TJ, that she bought ammunition for TJ. And then later on Saturday, keep in mind this happened on Friday night, Robert takes that truck, which belongs to another relative, to a car wash because it's coated in red mud, and cleans it up. The owner of the vehicle knows that they're driving the vehicle. That young lady, who is a relative, doesn't know anything about anything. She's just throwing a fit because you said you were going to Sebring or Avon Park in my truck, and you bring it back looking like this. Robert cleans it up. We asked, did you clean the inside? Oh, no, we didn't clean the inside. Well, duh, they did. We found trace evidence of blood where TJ was sitting in the passenger side of the vehicle. That's being packaged up and taken to FDLE.
Yes. So at
the end of the day.
Hold on a second. Let me stop this because I was confused initially when I saw this news conference, but yes, William Wiggins is Robert. So I guess that's, his official name, William Wiggins, but I guess that everybody calls him Robert. So who knows? Maybe it said that on his license. Who knows? You never know with these people. So
we've charged TJ Wiggins appropriately with 3 counts of first-degree murder. At this point in the investigation, we have charged Robert with 3 counts of accessory and 1 count of tampering with evidence. We've charged Mary with 3 counts of accessory to the murder and 1 count of tampering. The investigation is ongoing. The folks who lost their loved ones that night are poor people. We've had a lot of people offer to give us more money for a reward. We don't need that. But if there's an
Here's something that I've never actually seen or heard a law enforcement professional do this, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But here is the Sheriff Grady Judd, pleading to the public to, instead of donate for, obviously they don't need it anymore, a reward, help this family pay for their funerals of their young men, young children. And listen, I have a son, 27. I still consider him a child. He's my son. He's my boy. So this is him now going on to ask for people to come forward and help pay for the funeral.
inclination to help these folks bury their loved ones, we have charged Robert with 3 counts of accessory and 1 count of people. We've had a lot of people offer to give us more money for a reward. We don't need that. But if there's an inclination to help these folks bury their loved ones, I'm certain that would be appreciated, because there's nothing worse than having to bury your child, unless it's you're having to bury your child and you don't have any money.
God bless this man. I mean, like I said, in all of my 29 years being around law enforcement, I've never seen this is, you know, a 4-star sheriff. That's like a 4-star chief over here, and I've never seen or heard a law enforcement professional do this. So kudos to him, and I hope someone comes forward and pays for these funerals. And I know there's a lot of people out there who are much more fortunate, and I would greatly and with all my heart would donate to a GoFundMe. So I'm going to look for something like that and maybe donate to it. Hello to all the new people joining, and if you're new here, let us know where you're watching, city and state, and thank you so much for coming in. Subscribe to my channel. Follow me on all things social media, all one word, DutyRon.
It's important to understand, and I alluded to this the other day, I can give you more details today, that as I...
Also, keep in mind that there's protests and riots going on calling for defunding the police. These are the men and women of law enforcement that we need so desperately. This is a good man. There's tens of thousands of more good law enforcement professionals like him out there working for you and I. So God bless our men and women in blue.
Said originally, normally the normal murder is around drugs, alcohol, money, domestic events. No evidence of drugs in either of the victims' car. None. Zero. No beer cans.
I will post it in the description.
Nothing.
I will find it and post it.
In the suspect's vehicle when we see it, there's no indication of drugs at all. The only information we have is TJ is allegedly mad over some kind of truck deal that happened some period of time ago. We've not had an opportunity, the homicide team, to dig into that civil disturbance, if you will, yet, because we're busy solving a triple homicide, but that will come together later. State Attorney's Office, which is simply the very best.
Thank you, King Donahue.
Worked with us hand in glove during the entire investigation, and we'll be doing the same with them as we prepare to charge, as we prepare with them to prosecute TJ for the massacre of these 3 folks. Robert and Mary's charges may be upgraded. We may add charges. That investigation's ongoing.
My pleasure, Joe.
Understand that this is Wednesday. We started this investigation Friday night when we were called.
Well said, Trudy.
And by Tuesday afternoon, this homicide team had them in jail. We're grateful for the tips we received.
Let me explain something to you, Lori, and everybody else that's out here in the chat. This TJ is had a lifelong history of violence. He broke someone's arm with a crowbar, had a verbal altercation. He's assaulted senior citizens over 65 years old. He's had 230 charges against him, felony charges against him, since he's 12 years old. He's only 26 years old. So this is a bad seed. This is an evil, dangerous, high-strung, very, very a career-type criminal. This is not somebody that anybody here would want to have to deal with. Nonetheless, have him in your neighborhood. And the people of that community came forward and said, hey, Sheriff, I would take a look at this guy, TJ. He's a bad apple. He's a bad seed. I don't know if he did it, but if anybody did it, I would have to say it was him. So this is what went on, and that is. Hey, listen, our criminal justice system is nothing close to being perfect. And here's a prime example of a criminal justice system. You know how many times I've arrested somebody and they got a rap sheet a mile long? And when I say a rap sheet, that means charges against them, hundreds of charges. And I'm like, why am I locking this guy up? He's just going to get right back out again. Sure as hell, the next day I see this guy walking the street. So at the end of it all, this is a testament to how ass backwards our criminal justice system is. And look at what happened here in New York. Bail reform put into play by Governor Cuomo makes people like this guy flourish. Bail reform here in New York State makes a criminal like this piece of shit flourish, because he can commit the crimes and get out time and time again. This guy shouldn't have been walking the streets, but he was. He was out on bond.
We're grateful for the outpouring of support from the community. We're grateful we had people from around the country, as far away as Tennessee, that I'm aware of, want to send us money for a reward. You see, that's the United States, that's the state of Florida, and that's the community I know and love. Good people can.
Now, listen, before everybody gets ahead of themselves, the perp in this crime, he murdered 3 people. He's not out. He was out, able to commit the 3 murders. He was out on bond from a violent assault. So he shouldn't have been out in the first place. But now, to be clarified, I guess I don't know why I have to clarify that, but I will. He's not out. He'll never see the light of day, and he'll probably get the death penalty here in Florida. In Florida, they have the death penalty, so he definitely qualifies for it.
Came with promises and prayers for the family from around this country. The community pulled together. And that's the United States of America that I know. Now, quite literally, other than investigative details we're working on, evidence we're preparing to take to the lab, you know what we've been told up to this point in the investigation. You can ask questions. I'll either answer them or I won't. Yes, ma'am.
Beyond this, the argument over the engine in the car, was there any other motive that you guys found?
The only conflict we see is this. Where's my truck? I heard you stole the engine or sold the engine out of my truck. Where's my truck? I heard you sold the engine out of my truck. And for that, this guy massacres 3 young men, 23, 27, and 30, on their way fishing Friday night near Frostproof. It's gut-wrenching.
This guy is an evil, evil person. I mean, he deserves to be, he deserves to be in jail for the rest of his life. If not, you're going to look at a good 10 years of of stays of execution. And this takes a long time for this to happen. So at the end of it all, it is it's something that is gut wrenching for the family, because they just keep on getting stays of execution, and they keep on putting in through the legal channels. It takes so long. It's just a pain. It's more of a pain for the family because it just lingers on. Good to see you, Gemma. Thank you so much for coming in from the UK. Love and respect to you, Gemma.
This is evil in the flesh. This is a guy who can hurt you just because heard you stole the engine. And for that, this guy massacres 3 young men, 23, 27, and 30, on their way fishing Friday night near Frostproof. It's gut-wrenching. This is evil in the flesh. This is a guy who can hurt you just because it's the right thing for him to do at that moment in time with his 3 brain cells.
3 brain cells. I love it.
Yes, ma'am.
How do you know
This fucking guy is great.
one of these suspects cooperating, or is this something that Brandon Rollins told his father?
Well, we're not telling all of how we put this together. As you can imagine, I'm giving you the 30,000-foot view. So that you can have the complete picture of what happened. But some of the information and some of the sources that people have wanted to provide us information, it's not appropriate at this stage to release.
Okay,
Yes.
so he basically is saying, Mary London, absolutely. So he's basically saying he's giving you the 30,000 foot view of what they have. Essentially, he didn't say, and he can't, because it's, this is all part of what's going to be presented before a grand jury to get the indictment, and then going forward to charge this crime, to go to trial. I'm sure that he's going to plead not guilty. He's got nothing to lose by pleading not guilty. In the remote chance that he pleads guilty, then there won't be a trial for him, but there'll be still a trial for the other 2 defendants. So this guy, I love that he said with his 3 brain cells. That is freaking awesome. And you know what? He's passionate about his work. He's proud that he was able to bring closure first and foremost to the families. There's 3 families of these victims. And we have to keep that in mind when we make comments in the comment section. I'm letting a lot of things go tonight that I normally wouldn't let go, but I'm just going to ask the new people and the people who are just coming around or just starting to get to know me. I have a lot of respect for crime victims' families, and I don't know who watches these videos, so I ask that everybody please keep your comments to yourself about different people's forms of living and the way they are. What we have before us are 3 monsters, 3 very bad people who don't need to be walking the face of the earth. And what we have also in front of us is a very professional police department. This Sheriff Grady Judd and the Polk County Sheriff's Office and all the homicide detectives and all this people who were involved in the crime scene evidence collection. These are all professionals that keep us safe at their own life. They risk their own life to keep us safe. So this, at the end of the day, is about respect. It's about respect. So please, when you're in the comments, please refrain from putting out your personal opinions about people, because the victims' families could stumble across this live stream maybe a year from now, maybe 2 years from now, maybe 5 days from now. And I just don't want anybody to put something in my chat, and I'll be reviewing back over. And anybody that puts something in the chat that I don't like, I'm going to wind up blocking you. So at the end of the day, have some respect. You can join in with the chat, but I ask that you guys have to understand that there are crime victims' families that could possibly come across any one of these live streams. And I'm not going to be that guy that allows disrespect. And that's all I have to say about that. Thank you, Kyle Childress, for following me on Twitter and Facebook. I greatly appreciate that. So everybody's welcome to stay and voice your opinion, but do it in a respectful manner.
Brandon called his father 10 minutes after they left the store. So that means they left the store, he met his buddies, they're talking, the suspects pull up. Whether Brandon, I imagine, all information I have is he made the call when the argument started. Because by the time Dad got there and found his son on the ground, gasping his last breaths, and he's holding his son, or he's with his son during the very end of his life, and he's panicked. As I told you, he ran to the store, and people, good question, well, why didn't he just pick up his son's cell phone and call? Well, his son's phone had fallen down inside the truck, and in his panic and fear, he didn't see any cell phones. He just knew the three boys and his son were shot to pieces, and he ran for help, which is all he knew to do. We've tried to comfort Dad. The wounds were so severe that quite literally, if an emergency room had been across the street, they couldn't have saved his life. But you can't imagine the horror of a dad to find his son.
Good night, Stern.
Shot up.
Thank you for being here.
I mean shot up, as we say in Polk County vernacular. Multiple gunshots and dying in your arms. Yes, ma'am.
You said you got several tips pointing to Tony Wiggins. Can you specify about how many tips?
I don't know how many of them specifically talked about TJ or Tony. Several. And you know why? Not that they had any information about the murder, but he's just mean as a snake. So it's a small community. Frostproof is probably 3,000, 3,500 people. And this is in what you would call the outskirts. It was not downtown Frostproof. Frostproof is the mega center at 3,000. This is probably 3 or 4 miles, 5 miles south of Frostproof in a very remote area. But everybody knows that if Tony Wiggins is the prime suspect for anything that goes wrong, and that's easy to assume when at 26 years of age, he's got 230 felony charges. And he's been arrested consistently from the time he was 12 years old.
So in case anybody didn't grasp that, he's been arrested since he's 12 years old is when his arrest started. All the way up to 26, 230 felony charges. This is a bad person, and everybody knows it.
I'm sure somebody thinks you ought to have counseling and pretrial release. Our goal, and we pray that the state attorney can seek the death penalty. He needs to receive a fair trial, the appropriate appeals, and then be executed. And you know what? Legally, we can't execute him like he did those 3 guys who were just trying to fish.
That's a face of evil right there. That is a person who took 3 people's lives and beat them to death, shot them to death, bludgeoned them. This is a monster. And he was out on our streets. And there's many more just like this guy. There's many more like him. And if we defund our police and take our police off the street or take our police's power away to enforce laws and rules and regulations against somebody just like this, we'll be left to deal with these guys. And they'll come for us, and they'll hurt you, and they'll, God forbid, kill you. So let this be a lesson. When you start hearing people crying for defunding the police and the Black Lives Matter people talking about abolish the police department, this is a prime reason why you don't need to do that. Think about it, people.
Friday night, nor would we suggest that the 6 years of age, I'm sure somebody thinks you ought to have counseling.
Talking about
and
counseling.
Pretrial release.
Pretrial release. All the
Our
bullshit,
goal,
bullshit of our justice system.
and we pray that the state attorney can seek the death penalty. He needs to receive a fair trial, the appropriate appeals, and then be executed. And you know what? Legally, we can't execute him like he did those 3 guys who were just trying to fish on Friday night, nor would we suggest that the system be as barbaric as his conduct toward our 3 victims. Anything else? Pretty well know it. Thank you. God bless you. See you later.
Wow. What a great man. What a great law enforcement professional. So again, guys, I'm here. I have the video. I actually have overhead of the location where this vicious, evil monster was taken into custody. If you guys want to see it, I'll put it up on the screen real quick here for you. I'm sure everybody wants to see it. So, hold on. Hold on. Okay, all right, here we go. Now this is just going to be an overhead view of it. So right here, I'm going to zoom in. This is the area where he was. It's just, it looks like there's like 1, 2, 3, 4. It's not a big, like what he described, the trailer park home, but look at this. This is it. This is the property. And all these are little sheds and pieces of garbage where people, this is the property where he was arrested. It was a main house. It looks like a trailer here and a bunch of garbage and other shit in the back. But that's the view. This is Sarver Avenue. I can't really get in real good, but this is the overhead of it. And this is the town up here where the murder took place. If you can see, this is the state of Florida. It's right in the middle of Florida. Here's Orlando up here. There's Winter Haven right above it. Lakeland is over here. So this is the part of Florida where this all occurred. And there you go. Yes, and other shit. I swear I adore you. Thank you, Mama Ames. I appreciate it. Thank you. I call it as I see it. I call it as I see it. All right, listen, an hour and 24 minutes. Support your local law enforcement. Support your military. These are the men and women who are out there keeping us safe. Guys, if you're not subscribed to my channel, please hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, all one word, DutyRon. Subscribe to my YouTube video share group. Anybody who's given super chat that I missed, thank you so much for the super chats. Thank you so much for becoming a channel member. I have over 100 people in the channel members on the channel, and I do special live streams and a lot of behind the scenes stuff for my channel members. So thank you to each and every one of you for becoming a channel member. Thank you, Glara. Go check out my great friend Joey Brooklyn's channel. The Glara has his own channel, and all the content creators that come in and join my live stream. So thank you. Again, I am a 20+ year retired NYPD detective. I worked in the warrant squad. This is the TRIP team. The TRIP team stands for, a lot of you ask me this question in emails like, hey, DutyRon, what does the TRIP team mean? What I did is I worked within the fugitive apprehension team. We went after bad people like this guy, TJ, guys that murdered people, guys that have violent assaults, and we would go out of state, out of New York State, and go on trips, and therefore the TRIP team. We would get on airplanes and fly to different cities and states, and we would pick up people and bring them back to New York City. I will do a live with my sergeant. My retired sergeant wants to come on with me. His name is Pete. And I'll have Pete on, Sergeant Pete, and we will talk about the TRIP team. He was my supervisor in the TRIP team, and we are best friends now in our retirement. He wants to come on my YouTube live, and we will talk about the TRIP team and all the great things that we did as a team and all the bad people that we took off the streets to keep it safe for people like yourself, and all of the good work that we do as law enforcement professionals to keep the streets safe and rid our communities of evil, the very evil that just killed 3 people down in Frostproof, Florida. All right, guys, love and respect from my house to yours. I hope you enjoyed this live. Share it out with your friends. Share it onto your social media, and I'll catch you on the next one. DutyRon says peace and love from everybody.